Hey, folks, welcome back to the program. This is Chris Wyatt Reports, Chris Reports, and the Indaba Africa channel. And with me now is none other than Dodgy Joe Emilio, as we lovingly, affectionately call it, Joe, the famous American slash Ethiopian, Egyptian, not Ethiopian, slash South African comedian from the Referendum Party. You are a candidate and you're on number 10 on the list, Joe. Tell us all about it.
Uh, Thanks, Chris, for the very last moment inclusion on your show.
Oh, look at this dig, man. Look at that. That's not a real thank you. That's an ANC thank you.
No, I was actually just teasing you, which is why, like I said, give me 5 minutes because the tuck shop had like quite a long queue, so it's just taking a bit of time to get the airtime.
If you're wondering when he had to go buy airtime in a tuck shop, we were joking about that.
But yeah, man, being a candidate for a referendum party, it's been a blast. I don't think there's like right now there's not much a candidate can do except for try and support the party as much as possible, tell friends and family about the party itself, why people should vote for it. I only like you said, it depends on how many votes we get, and yeah, number 10 is quite far down the list, so we need quite a lot of votes in order for me to even step foot into parliament, which doesn't really bother me. I think there's a few other guys ahead of me that are far more qualified to be in parliament and make really good arguments. So I'm happy to just support the party. I don't know where I'll fall in with the party after elections because it all depends on how many votes we get and stuff like that. I don't know if I'll be more involved or kind of have the same position that I have now, which is basically just creating content for the referendum party and stuff, kind of on a volunteer basis as well. But yeah, I don't know. If you have any other questions, ask me. I don't.
Well, Joe, yeah, I do have a lot of questions. I know you don't have a lot of time, but we'll get to it. First off, excuse me. We'll be there and not very far from you, so we will link up. I'll come by and I'll be prepared to wipe the feline hair off my arms. But Joe's got some lovely cats, but they affect my respiratory system a little bit. But no, I'll definitely come by. We'll link up. I don't know what you're doing on election day, but my plan is to try to get around to several polling stations, talk to people on the street, that sort of thing. I don't know what your plan is. Maybe we can link up and do something together if that's not going to violate the terms of your party or whatever, or you can just show me around or take me to a poll, whatever your plan is. But that's coming on Wednesday, assuming my flight gets there on time, which is Delta. It should be fine. Anyway, I'll be staying in the Western Cape because of the late arrival, but I do have questions for you. So we've seen in the past people who've been active on social media start or get involved with political parties. Of course, Roman Tabernak was the Purple Cow Party or something like that a few years back. They got, I think, 15,000 votes in the 2019 election, and Roman has just kind of walked away from politics, at least publicly. Yeah. He might be doing it privately, but we don't know. But what made you as a known, well, I should I say well-known comedian? People know who you are in the Western Cape as a known comedian. Relatively. Yeah, well, yeah, as well-known. I think that's fair. As well-known. I mean, there's a big crowd there the night I went and heard you speak. You weren't funny, but there were a lot of people there. No, Joe was hilarious.
I remember them laughing though. Maybe you just didn't get the jokes because they were, South African or whatever.
They were just drinking a lot of beer before you came on stage. No, but seriously, Joe that was at Somerset West a couple years ago. So Joe was opening act for none other than Barry Hilton. So Joe, as a noted personality, and then also your social media content, your TikTok now, which really does a lot, I think does really well, and then your YouTube channel, which has really grown impressively over the past year and a half.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I look, I'm desperate to stay ahead of you. I can't have Joe Emilio's comedy channel pass me. Anyway, no, but what drove you to this? I know that you're frustrated about what's going on in South Africa. What drove you to say, hey, listen, this new party's there. Let me go link up with them. And then how did you wind up as a candidate on their platform? Because here in America, you don't have to impress a party. You could be any idiot and run for office. I mean, I don't know if you saw this, but I just ran for office and lost.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I remember. Yeah, it started off as a bit of a, I don't want to say joke, but
a lark. A lark. How's that better?
Yeah,
a lark.
Yeah. Like I saw Phil tweet about candidates for the RP, right? I can't remember exactly what he was saying. And then I kind of quote tweeted him and said like, oh, well, as like genuinely, part of me was joking and part of me was like, I actually genuinely want to know what is the process of becoming a candidate. So that's what I tweeted. I said, so how does one become a candidate? Next thing I know, he's telling his, I think, Joan to send me links and stuff like that for the application and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, whoa. I just wanted to know what the process is. I don't necessarily want to apply. But then I was like, well, let me answer it. Let me do the application. And at the beginning, I was going to do it jokingly, like I was going to put Deadpool as my name, and from like where am I from is like Cyril's asshole or something like really jovial and trying to be as funny as possible. But then I was like, you know what? That's not going to look good on me. I'm friends with Phil. I respect Phil. I don't want to like waste their time. I'm sure they have precious time, and here's me trying to waste their time with a fake application. So I was like, you know what? Let me fill this in seriously. Let me actually fill this out if I get chosen, because it's application, right? So I could be rejected, which is fine. I would have been okay with that. Like I don't know, like obviously, like I said earlier, I'm not a politician. I have no I've never studied politics or anything of the sort. So for me, I was like, there's probably like far more people that are more qualified than I am. I'm probably not going to get in or accepted or whatever. Um, so I filled it out, and then about 2 weeks later, they were like, "Okay, cool, you're accepted, and you're number 10." I was like, "Okay, how do you guys know what you've done?" But yeah, then I was like, "Okay, well, then
I guess I guess the answer there was the joke's on you, Joe.
exactly." And I was like, "Okay, well, the universe has spoken," and look, I was. I think a part of me as well during that process of application, because I spoke to my wife about it as well. Like I kept it from her for a while until they told me that I was accepted, because I didn't want her to worry, and I felt like, let me tell her when there's actually something concrete. And when I told her and I spoke to her about it, and I said like one of the reasons why I also decided to do this is because like I don't know. I feel like it's I love what I do on YouTube with the news flash and commentating on news and stuff like that, but it feels in some instances where I'm just bitching and moaning and not really having an effect on things. And I felt that, well, if I have an opportunity now to be part of something really huge, part of something that will change the history of this country. Am I going to let that opportunity slip, or and then be basically bitching and moaning and never actually have skin in the game? Or am I going to get off my fat ass and do something about it? And I decided, you know what? I can't, when my daughter is older and asks me, Dad, what did you do for Cape Independence? Did you do anything? I want to be able to say that I tried or I did, instead of saying, you know what, I just sat on the sidelines and did nothing.
Yeah, I
So
know exactly where you're coming from, Joe. The current state representative. I have no real ambition to serve in the state legislature. I'd really prefer to serve in DC, in the Congress. But the incumbent is running, and that's a strong incumbent. And the state legislator decided to run for the state Senate seat being vacated, which opened this up. And it's a good opportunity to get in and cut my teeth at that level. So I ran, and same conclusion. I can't sit around and say that I didn't step forward when it was the right time. I did.
mm,
Unfortunately, it cost me a lot of money because I paid out of pocket for the campaign. It drained my finances, but
yeah.
it was worth doing it because no one can accuse me, and I can go to my maker eventually saying that when the time was right, I stepped forward to do the right thing, just like I did in uniform for 37 years. So I appreciate where you're coming from there. So you got on the list for the party. What's campaigning been like? I mean, what kind of reception are you getting? The people are joking about. I saw something about the referendum party. It was cooking a braai and had some voice or something like that. But look. I mean, I don't know what. So, but what's campaign been like? Tell us a little bit about that.
Campaign has been a lot of fun. I think we're a ragtag group of people. We're uh, almost like a just a group of awesome people, man. From like I cannot even explain the different walks of life that everyone is from. We've got people who are, they don't have a lot of money. They're like live in shacks and stuff. Then we got people who live in very rich, affluent areas like Sea Point and stuff like that. And everybody with different ideologies, even although the one thing in common is that we all hate communists. But but we have different opinions on, free markets and stuff like that. And it's always a vibe hanging out with these people, because we all are united by one vision, which is a better future for Cape Town, for Western Cape, for the Western Cape people, especially. So that all unites us, and it doesn't matter where we're from, it doesn't matter our history, it doesn't matter like what tribe we're with or religion or whatever. We all get along and we all stick together, and I think that's what makes it so much fun being around these individuals who also, mind you, a lot of them are young, which is very nice. It's very nice to see a very young candidate list, which is great. So yeah, it's always a vibe, and we like poking the bear. I'm sure you've seen with the when we did our manifesto launch and we shut down the border. That was a whole lot of fun.
You guys are the Nandos of political parties.
Pretty much, yeah. And it, you know, a lot of people gave us I don't want to say flack because that was the whole point. Like we wanted to upset people. It was so funny. Like we were like, we want to upset you, and you got upset. You literally played into our hands.
Oh,
And
they lost their minds.
Yeah,
oh,
they
we should be
lost their minds.
arrested. Oh, shut down the roads.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, you know, EFF shuts down entire neighborhoods and ANC shuts down streets, and you know nobody
Exactly.
notices it. But
Exactly.
but to be clear, the referendum party did not shut down the road entering Western Cape from
Yeah.
Eastern Cape. Every time traffic came along, they vacated the roadway surface and just waved at people.
Yeah. Or directed them to the other lane. Like, you know,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you know, told them like go, just there's people standing here, you know.
Yeah.
But that was, but it's always funny because like people are like, oh, they blocked traffic. And I was like, I can show you pictures of how empty this road was. What traffic? There was no traffic to
Yeah,
block.
it's
There
not
was, like,
exactly
one
a major
car every
thoroughway. Yeah.
15 minutes. Like, like
Yeah,
what
it's a
traffic?
remote rural road. People lost their minds. But one of the questions in the comments, Joe, was asking about what the party hopes for. I did interview several members of the party, and the goal is 100,000 votes in the Western Cape. Is that still the
Yes.
case? Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much still the case. You know, and I saw another comment that I actually want to address about
Yeah.
splitting votes. I can't remember exactly how it was worded, but I caught the splitting votes part, and I think that's a common concern of many voters, and that's why like people need to understand that referendum party. And it's one of the reasons why, another reason why I joined them is we have no ambition for control in terms of like running things, right? We're not a party that wants to run the Western Cape. We're not even a party that wants to run the new country if it should secede. Uh, our main goal and our main purpose, it's in the name, referendum. We want to call a referendum on Cape independence and let the people of the Western Cape decide if they want to break away from South Africa. Now, having said that, the reason why we exist is because the DA once upon a time did promise to hold a referendum on Cape independence. Even at the time, they did state that they don't support Cape independence. They never have, but they would allow a referendum. And at the time, CIAG, Cape Independence Advocacy Group, were busy talking to them, and there was negotiations and all that stuff. And then basically DA went back on their word. Alan Winde said no. And then it was the CIAG who decided, you know what, we're not just going to stop, you know, fighting for this. We're going to have to create a political party, and we're going to call it the Referendum Party, because the whole idea of the Referendum Party is to pressure the DA into calling for that referendum that they once promised. Now, I want to add to this that people seem to think that, and this is what makes us so unique, right? So people seem to think that because we're a political party, then we must have answers to everything. How are you going to run this? How are you going to do this? And I understand, because any political party usually has those answers because they are running to be in control and govern, right? But we're not doing that. We're just trying to pressure the DA, which is why we say, if you vote for us, okay, and hopefully we bring the DA down to below 50% in the Western Cape, then they would need to be in a coalition with us and possibly the Freedom Front Plus. And our condition for a coalition is to call a referendum. It's to pressure them into calling a referendum. So we will happily be in a coalition with them once they agree to that. And we will vote in favor for a DA premier, and we will make sure that the DA still governs the Western Cape. All right, that's very important to understand. We want the DA to govern the Western Cape because they do a good job at it, and keep the ANC out of the Western Cape. We do not at all want to give an opportunity for the ANC to be in power in the Western Cape. We will definitely do anything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. And I hope that makes sense to a lot of people. And now a lot of people might be like, well, I'm still going to vote DA, or I'm still going to vote this. That's fine. You may not be our target market, because our target market is the 68% of DA voters who want Cape independence, but are also DA voters. Those are the people we're after. And 68% of DA voters is quite a big chunk of their voter base. So yeah, if you're one of those people, if you're one of those people that like the DA, but also want Cape independence, you need to vote Referendum Party. It's the only way you're going to get Cape independence. And at the same time, have the Western Cape govern. Have the DA govern the Western Cape. So yeah.
Well, it is interesting because the Referendum Party has an agreement. They've formed an agreement with the Freedom Front Plus, and they endorse and support your party. So Bebop was asked the question, who should you vote for? Well, you can answer in a second, but my thing would be vote for whomever you think is the right party to vote for. The Freedom Front Plus has a manifesto. They're committed to market capitalism, faith, family, and flag, yada, 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 similar to the ACDP, but not quite as Christian focused but there's a Christian focus as well. And the Referendum Party is a single issue party. If you want to really ensure that the DA is not going to get 50%, you need to vote for one of these parties, either Referendum or Freedom Front Plus, that's going to push, because I believe the Freedom Front Plus, if they have sufficient votes, and with the Referendum Party and Freedom Front Plus, are going to also push for that referendum because they want it as well. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement. I mean, we all signed the accords as well, the Cape Exit Accords, which is basically Freedom Front Plus, Referendum Party, and Cape Exit. It's a promise to or a pact, if you will, to support one another and drive or achieve Cape independence, no matter what happens. So yes, Freedom Front Plus also definitely, if you're a fan of, or if you're going to vote Freedom Front Plus, you'll also probably get Cape independence through them as well. But we're both, I mean, as far as I know, Freedom Front Plus and the Referendum Party are both going to pressure the DA into holding that referendum. So South Africa is going to be very interesting in the next few years. I can tell you that.
It's going to be very interesting the next 7 days. I mean, between now and next Sunday, I will have flown to South Africa. I will have been there for the elections. I'll go to watch the Stormers defeat the Lions and end their hopes of the playoff and winning record, and then move on from there. But so is campaigning still allowed, or is it over now officially today? Because Herman Mashaba and Action SA had their final campaign event 30 minutes before Cyril came, or an hour before Cyril came on stage. That was pretty funny. They did that in Gauteng, if I'm not mistaken. But do you have any more campaigning to do? And if so, what kind of events? And if you can share, let us. But if you can't, that's fine.
I'm not head of campaign management, so I wouldn't really know, but I do know that our final awareness campaign, so we've been doing for the past few months a lot of awareness campaigns, basically where we put up a few gazebos and we give flyers at the robots, and if people walk by, we tell them, if they're interested, we tell them about Cape Exit and the Referendum Party. So those kinds of awareness events, the last one was this past Saturday. That's where we decided to give away free Vorse, because, you know, the ANC and the EFF like to give away free KFC at their kinds of rallies or awareness, or whatever you want to call it. They just give away KFC to their supporters. We decided we'll give away Vorse to ours and to the public, those that were going by, and we gave them a flyer at the same time. So yeah, that was a whole lot of fun. A lot of supporters came out. We even had a few signups to Cape Exit, which was great. So yeah, it was a great vibe. We had music, and the braai was awesome. So yeah, we all got to eat Vorse and stuff, and it felt really, again, just an awesome vibe. And as far as I know, I'm sure there are campaigns happening, maybe not on the ground, if I can put it that way, but more like on social media. But other than that, as far as I know, no. That was the last one.
Well, that's helpful. So Rosalind Gerber asked a question about what happened to that good-looking man that's running Cape Exit the past 10 years. I believe she's talking about Des Palm. He's still running it. He's still in charge of it, is he not?
Yeah,
okay.
He still is. Yeah.
I mean, there's three groups that are known publicly for their effort for a referendum and for Cape secession. There's United Liberty Alliance, led by Hein Marks. There's the Cape Exit, led by Des Palm, and the Cape Independence Advocacy Group, formed and led by Phil Craig, who is the architect of the Referendum Party. I don't know if that's a fair statement, but certainly probably the inspiration for it, you know, I don't know if that's a fair statement, but that's the three groups, and that's Des Palm is still out there. So, Joe, election day, are you going to be home taking care of the kid, or are you going to get out and obviously you got to go vote? I mean, you don't want to you'll be a candidate and not vote. That would be bad.
Yeah, we're in a situation where we have to do like a rotational thing for the little one. So my wife and I are gonna go vote as early as we can, as early as possible. So my mom is gonna sleep over to look after our little one in the morning. Well, she'll sleep over the evening before to be able to take care of her in the morning while we go out and vote. And hopefully we get done as soon as possible so that we can come back and my mom has a chance to go vote as well. So there's a bit of a rotational thing happening so everybody has a chance to vote. So yeah.
Well, Joe, listen, let me say this. I mean, I'll probably be a little bit knackered, although I got a good seat, so maybe I'll be able to sleep on the flight. But I will, if you message me privately where you're voting at and the time you think you're going to be there, I will try to make a plan to come for where I'm going to be the night before and show up and while you're waiting in line, say hi to Joe Emilio and you know, and after you vote, you know, get a quick interview if you're up for it. I mean, I think that'd be pretty. I think that'd be pretty cool.
But it's going to be super early, dude. Like we're planning on. I think it opens at 7, so we're gonna try and be there at like 6:30 in the queue.
Okay, well, that's not super early. On election day as judge of elections, I'm up at 5 o'clock and open the polls at 7, but I open the building at 6. So
okay, cool. Well then, yeah, I forgot you're a colonel. You're used to waking up at the dawn, the crack of dawn. Like
yeah, exactly. So no, I don't like waking up at the crack of dawn, but you know, but I'll do it when it's necessary. I interviewed Velen Cosini Labisa, the head of the IFP, at 3 o'clock in the morning on Friday here. So it's just like you get that interview. So anyway, all right. So Joe, any final thoughts? Give you a chance to make a pitch for people to go vote for the referendum party. The floor is yours because I know your time is short.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, look, listen, guys. Again, if you want Cape independence, you're gonna have to vote for it this coming election on the 29th of May. Vote for the referendum party. I've explained to you now, if you're concerned about losing or maybe, you know, voting for the referendum party would mean that the ANC would somehow get back into the Western Cape or have control of the West. It's not going to happen. Referendum party is 100%, 1,000% against the ANC. We will do whatever we can to make sure that they are not in power ever in the Western Cape. And we will make sure that the DA continues to govern the Western Cape as well. And at the same time, pressure them to hold a referendum. That is the point of this party. So if you want Cape independence, this is the democratic route to achieve that, a democratic, peaceful route. So please, if you want to give, if I think I'm going to quote Phil Craig, who recently said, you know, you can view this as like Noah's Ark, right? You don't want to be the person who didn't get on the boat. Don't be that person when the rain is falling, still saying the rain isn't coming. Just be courageous, vote for the referendum party. And the most important ballot to vote on is the provincial ballot, by the way. You can give us a national vote. We're on all 3 ballots, but the most important is provincial. As long as we get 2 seats, if we can hit 2 seats, that's our goal. That's enough. That's enough to call or to allow us the opportunity to call a referendum and allow the Western Cape people to finally decide on their future. And that's the whole point of our party.
Well, there you go, folks. A very well-stated position there from Joe Emilio. Thank you, Joe. It's a pleasure. Thanks for coming on. You're going to be my last political candidate for this election season. So you got that distinction. And I look forward, even if I don't see you on election morning, at least seeing you while I'm in the Western Cape. I'll make a genuine effort to get there, but I'll stay in touch via what I'll make a genuine effort to stay in touch via WhatsApp in case I am or I am not going to be there. But anyway, folks, none other than Joe Emilio, our favorite Texan, Egyptian, South African comedian. I don't think there's any more Texan/Egyptian/South African comedians. So you're clearly our favorite. Joe, thanks a lot. Best of luck on Wednesday.
Thanks so much, Chris. Thanks again for having me.